first thing you really should be doing is assessing how much home you can afford. Now, that is typically done with you sitting down with your mortgage broker and figuring that out. But I'm going to give you just a little bit of understanding of what actually this mortgage broker is going to want from you. And so the better that you understand it, you're going to actually be able to do some of this before you even speak to them. And after you watch this video, you're going to be able to very quickly assess whether you're going to be someone that qualifies, and also how much home you can actually afford. So let's jump right into a few things that they're going to be looking at. Rule number one is the gross debt service ratio. The GDS is what they're going to be looking at. So to be considered for a mortgage, your monthly housing costs should not exceed more than 35% of your average gross monthly income. And I've got an example down below. We're going to look at that. But so the housing costs, or PIF, you can use that as an acronym, is the principal, the interest of the mortgage, the principal of that mortgage, the interest of that mortgage, the property taxes that are paid, and the heating expenses. All of us kind of have a sense of what the heating expenses might be. So you can use a guesstimation for that. If you are purchasing a condominium, then the other number that you would also use is half those condo fees. So you would also add that onto the end of PIF. So when you add up all those numbers, that figure cannot exceed 35% of your gross monthly income. So let's figure out the gross monthly income. So I've got an example here of a couple that wants to buy a property. We've got the first person, they're earning $4,500. So this is before any deductions. Their monthly earning is $4,500. Their partner's earnings are $3,800. This is per month. And then they've got another investment that is paying them $200 per month, giving them a total of $8,500 per month in gross income. So 35% of this figure is $2,975. So this is the maximum PIF amount. Whatever property they purchase cannot exceed the cost of carrying that mortgage, along with the taxes and heating, cannot exceed this amount. All right, so that's going to be one of the criteria that is going to be considered. Another criteria they're going to consider is called the total debt service ratio. So this is now the PIF plus any additional debt payments you may have. So this is rule number two. To be considered for a mortgage, your entire monthly debt load should not exceed 42% of your average gross monthly income. The example we're using, this person's average, or this group of people's average monthly income is $8,500. And when we looked at their, well, let's actually look at this here. So with the calculation is done, so we looked at the PIF, which we know is $2,975 for this individual. They cannot exceed that number. All their other debts, so I've given some examples here of some possible additional debt that the average person might have, is monthly auto payments, line of credit on a personal loan, a credit card payment, any student loans. So this person's additional monthly debt load would be an additional $695. So the total debt service ratio, which we can calculate for this couple that is earning $8,500 grossly per month, the total debt service ratio, when I multiply that number by 42%, because that is the maximum allowable number, is $3,570. So this number, the PIF, plus all of their additional debts, cannot exceed $3,570. So when we look at the total debt service ratio minus the gross debt service ratio, the additional debt that this individual can actually have is $595. Their current debt is $695. They're actually above by $100. So this individual would have to figure out, or this couple would have to figure out how to reduce that monthly debt load, additional debt load by $100 in order to qualify with this criteria, 42%. Okay, and obviously in the age that we're in now, these numbers, lenders, CMHC specifically, which just recently announced they are sticking to these figures, and they're being very stringent about it. So it's very important that you understand that. And these are some examples. You can now easily go back and calculate for yourself what that would be for you. Some factors that determine the maximum home price that you can realistically afford are the down payment amount. And this is one of the hardest things for most people, saving down that down payment. You've got all kinds of responsibilities, and even if you can put a little bit of aside every month, it's going to add up, and it can take some time depending on your earning ability. The down payment, certainly the larger that is, the larger down payment you can put down, the less other things will be affected, like CMHC premium, which we'll talk about in future videos, but you can avoid that, which will certainly reduce the size of the mortgage. The other thing is the average gross monthly income. The higher that is, the more that percentage, that GDS ratio is going to allow. When we use that, remember GDS, the percentage of that is going to be 35%. So the higher that gross monthly income, or adding in another potential buyer on title, is going to increase that, which is going to allow you to take on a little bit more. Mortgage interest rate, we have been and we are at really low rates, and we've been like that for quite some time. But this number can change things drastically. If that bumps up 1% or 2% or 3%, these numbers can change drastically and certainly impact these other figures because they affect. Remember, interest is PIF. Interest is one of the things that is considered in the GDS, and which the GDS is a part of the TDS. So interest rate, the higher the interest rate, the more challenge you're gonna face with affordability. And existing debt load. The amount of total debt that you currently have is obviously going to be a factor. With the example that we used earlier, that couple was over by $100. They'd have to reduce that debt load by $100 in order to qualify under the criteria. So ways to improve your situation: pay off some loans first. Get that total debt load that you've got, reduce that. Save for a larger down payment, and as you do that, just be a little bit more responsible. Where can you spend less in your household budget? Just get a budget in the first place, or really assess and look at what are things that you can cut back, eliminate, reduce, and free up some money to pay off some debt or to save up for a larger down payment. Or another option would be to lower your home price, especially in the age that one of the trends that I suspect we're going to see is as more employers allow employees to work from home, that is totally going to broaden the ability for people to look into more affordable areas, because working from home does mean simply that they don't have to commute, and proximity to work is no longer going to be so much of an issue. So I do suspect that that's a trend that we're going to see in real estate in the future years. So there you go. There you have it. A few things to keep in mind, because when you sit down with your mortgage broker, these are some of the things that they're going to look at and explain to you. But now you know. So I encourage you to put some numbers together, get a good sense of what you can afford. Reach out, but I'll